Thank you all for coming out today and watching this presentation. Thank you for Hackfest for having me here. If you've seen this presentation before, because I have given it before, there's plenty of new information in this one. Actually, I discovered a lot of it, or added a lot of it last week. So there's quite a bit of new information this time around. All right, so who am I? I am Chad M. Dewey. I add my middle initial because there's a lot of other Chad Deweys from the United States. I'm computer science and information systems professor at Saginaw Valley State University. I have degrees and stuff. I do pen testing from time to time. I love to cruise. It's my favorite way of vacationing. This talk was originally about just cruise lines, and then I found that this affected the entire maritime industry. I'm curious about weird stuff like cruise ships. I'm just another guy sharing information. Okay, this is, I mean, it's a joke, but some of these problems are very serious, and hopefully the maritime industry will take these issues into account. Okay. All right, so disclaimer here, this is the cover my rear end part. No unauthorized access to cruise ships or cruise ship systems was attempted or obtained. Most of these were in-person observations and using publicly available resources such as Shodan, which is a very wonderful tool, Google, Aaron, and several manuals I found online. Okay. In previous talks, I have not given away this kind of information. I didn't feel that it was really that big of a deal. This is my cruise line history. I've sailed with Princess Cruises several times, Norwegian once, Carnival Cruises once, and I'd like to try other cruise lines like Royal. Okay, so the overview of the presentation is essentially before the cruise, we're talking about hooking yourself up with goodies here and there, mostly harmless stuff. During the cruise, we're going to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi and physical security. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the things I've done after the cruises, okay? Probably the more interesting part of the presentation. Okay, so before the cruise, hooking yourself up. Okay, you may have cruised with this line before, Princess. Again, it's one of my favorites, so obviously I've been on it several times. With this particular cruise line, once you create an account and once you've cruised with them before, you're given access to the captain circle. Okay, and what that allows you to do is alter your account information, update your information and stuff like that. Other things it does is allows you to update missing information. Okay, such as credit for previous cruises taken. Okay. In this area, we can add past cruises that we may or may not have really gone on. There are no humans verifying your information is correct or truthful. Okay, cruise status will give you freebies such as free minutes with Wi-Fi, 120 free minutes, 150 free minutes, something like that. Some cruise lines allow you, once you elevate your status to, say, Platinum or Elite, to take a tour of the captain's, the bridge, or maybe the engine control room. Okay, I've never been on the bridge or a control room before. Wouldn't mind doing it though. Okay, all right, so this is my actual cruise history. It's cut off just a little bit at the bottom, but we'll work through that. Okay, so it shows I've cruised 7 times with Princess Cruise Lines. Okay. Since I was essentially able to add whatever cruises I want to my past, I decided to play around with this a little bit. Okay, these are the actual cruises I've been on. Okay, in 2015, 2012, 2011, and back in 2005. Okay, so here's a few issues. Again, I wasn't actually on this particular cruise, but this one, I figured, well, I took my wife with me, so I should be able to get credit for her maybe because she doesn't have her own account. So I added that just to see if I could get away with it, and sure enough, it instantly added it. The other one in 2009 on the Caribbean Princess, I never went on that cruise, but again, it allowed me to add that particular cruise. It's cut off a little bit here on the bottom. The Crown Princess, it shows I cruised on that in 2005 at the exact same time I cruised on the Caribbean Princess in 2005. Okay. There's an issue with that. The Crown Princess didn't take its maiden voyage until 2006. Okay, so apparently I was helping build the ship at the time. Okay. All right, so again, when you elevate your status, that's one thing. All cruise ships, cruise lines, however, allow you to celebrate special events, okay? Anniversaries, birthdays, graduation from college or high school, you know, things of that nature. In this case, I found that the most lucrative is when it's your anniversary, okay? This particular cruise line, I was given these 3 gift cards, so I was basically given a free bottle of wine and a free photo, okay? Which was nice of them. It's very generous to these cruise lines to do such a thing. But my anniversary so far has been in December, March, February, and May. Okay. Okay. So now that we've partaken in the festivities before the cruise, now we're on the ship. Okay. Wireless security has gotten better over time. When I went on my first cruise in 2005, they were still using WEP. WPA and WPA2 were still somewhat new at the time, so you know that's understandable. I found that there's multiple networks in each ship. Generally, there's one for crew members that are typically supposed to be segregated from you know, your standard guests. On some cruise ships, I found 3 or 4 separated, you know, different networks. I'm not really sure. I didn't poke and prod too much, but I found that there's several networks. Internet access is very expensive on these ships. The last cruise I went on with Carnival, it was $5 for social media sites only per day. And then it's $25 per day for full access. Okay, full access doesn't mean Netflix though. You know, heavily used bandwidth and all that sort of stuff. So you're still limited on the amount of, you know, access you have to the internet. The room definitely wasn't a good starting point if I was looking to maybe see what, you know, how robust their security was. There's not much traffic, so I had to end up going to the pool. Okay. And I got sunburn. You know, it's something that just happens when you're on the ship. But. Okay, so comparison to networks. Regarding Wi-Fi, Carnival Cruise Lines appeared to be the most secure. Again, I'm on vacation, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time, you know, working with Wi-Fi, just trying to get free minutes, because I can do that by elevating my cruise status. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, over time, as expected, encryption has steadily been getting better. So I don't really have too many complaints. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me go back one here. Okay, so remember, with Platinum status, you get so many free Wi-Fi minutes, and I showed you how on Princess Cruises how you could actually get that Platinum status, but you don't necessarily need to have Platinum status yourself to get it. What I found with Princess is the verification for you to get those free Wi-Fi minutes is to know just a few things. You need to be Platinum or Elite. Okay, so your status has to be up there. Your first name and your last name, which, you know, okay, I would hope you know that. And then lastly, your cabin number. Okay, on Princess Cruises, outside of every cabin, they have a little placard, and it tells you your cruise status, tells you the first name and last name, and of course your cabin number's out there. Okay, so I don't know if Grandma down the hall isn't going to use her Wi-Fi minutes, then I guess. All right, so, oops, apologies, technical difficulties. Okay, so physical security of the ship. There's safes in each of these rooms, depending on the ship. On the Princess ship and the Norwegian ship, they had a small safe in the room that was numeric. It was decent enough. And then the one that was kind of funny was the Carnival Cruise Line. Okay, they have a safe in there that has a magnetic strip on it. Now, inside of the door, it suggests that you use your driver's license or a credit card to swipe to lock the door and unlock the door. Okay, I personally have a problem with that because, you know, I don't know what's inside of that magnetic strip mechanism. Okay, so I decided to play around with other magnetic strips, like my school's ID has a magnetic strip on it, a Logan's Steakhouse gift card. It didn't matter. Okay, any string on this magnetic strip you use to lock it and then unlock it. It's just looking to make sure that they match. Staff doors were almost never locked. Okay, there's little offices, you know, hidden around on the ship here and there. Some in places where, you know, passengers would normally walk past, and some more in the bowels of the ship. So the staff doors were almost never locked. Some had no locks whatsoever. Kind of more interesting is doors to the ship's internals were almost never locked, and many had no locks. So as a passenger, I could walk pretty much wherever I wanted. Staff laundry was found along with forgotten name tags. Okay, the implications of that are, you know, social engineering. I could dress up as a crew member with a name tag, and probably, you know, nobody will bat an eye as to wherever I go on the ship. Okay, some of these ships, if you haven't been on a cruise before, you know, they handle up to 8,000 passengers and crew. A lot of people. These things are floating cities. The ships I've been on are right around 5,000 people, okay? So the point of that is not everybody knows each other, okay? So that's where the social engineering aspect comes into play. You know, they may not bat an eye because they may not know who you are or who that person is. All right. Each of the ships have a card that's associated with a credit card, also your room number. And when you pay for drinks and other amenities on the ship, you use that card to pay for these things. Now, your credit card is not actually on that. I've read the magnetic strip, so your credit card number is safe as far as that card goes. But most of the information can be spoofed. I didn't put it in the presentation because I didn't know if it would fit, but anyway. So when they swipe the card for you to pay for drinks and the other amenities, a picture of you shows up. Okay, and they're supposed to look at that picture for verification. And what I found is they didn't really do that. You know, they were so busy churning out drinks, they were swiping the card, they were hurry up putting in their code, they were, you know, so they didn't verify that it was you. Okay, so that could be an issue. The policies aren't being enforced very well. Okay, secure areas of the ship. This is a secure area. It says crew only, don't go in there. Blow it up a little bit. Okay, so that's what it looks like. It basically looks like freezer curtains. You know, you can just walk in and you know, there's nothing really stopping you. Okay, this is an engine control room. I'm very jealous of all the monitors they have in there. You can look along the back wall, filled with monitors. There's tons of technology in these ships. You know, that's kind of the point of showing you this. Pretty much everything is computerized at this point. Okay. This is the bridge, or a picture of the bridge. Again, I've never been in there. I actually found these pictures online. There's a few hidden here and there. The engine room in this one in particular are off of a Royal Caribbean ship. Okay. So very futuristic looking, very cool. I'd like to take a tour. Okay. All right. A better look at the navigation unit. Okay, kind of shows you a little bit of how they work. Then if you take a closer look, you get the manufacturer of the navigation system, Sperry Marine Vision Master FT. Okay, a lot of cruise ships, a lot of the maritime industry uses this particular navigation unit, so it's very commonly used. There's a problem with it though. If you take a look at the manual, it runs Windows XP. That could be a problem. Okay. My assumption is that these navigation units, I know that they're networked. I just don't. My assumption is that they're firewalled off from the rest of the world. Okay. So maybe internally you could access it, but from the outside world, not so much. Okay. So now, after the cruise, now that I've done a little bit of looking around, after the cruise, I can really start digging in. Okay, so the Internet of Ships. So they all have public IP addresses associated with them. They go through the Maritime Telecommunications network, which is basically a satellite provider, because it's hard to drag Ethernet cable through the ocean. And there's several vulnerabilities that were discovered. Again, I used Shodan primarily, very wonderful tool, Aaron and Google. Okay, so this is the Maritime Telecommunications Network. I discovered last week, or I added last week, this isn't the only network. This is the first network I found, because when I found the public IP address of the ship that I had been on last, it fell within this network. Okay, so there's much more, which is added to this presentation. You'll see it a little bit later on. Okay, this is what all the information was based off of, this one net block. So what is the Maritime Telecommunications Network? Okay, it's again a satellite network that provides services to Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, but also luxury yachts, oil rigs, government military vessels. Heard a couple snickers there. Okay, so each ship has its own little small block of IP addresses within the Maritime Telecommunications Network, and again, it's publicly available information. A simple whois shows what IP address ranges there are given to which ships, meaning specific cruise lines and specific ships. Okay, this is just a small sample. Okay, you can see some of the ships flying by: Crown Princess, Sun Princess, Tahitian Princess, Emerald Princess, Golden Princess. Again, this is just a small sampling. I didn't mean to pick on Princess, but yeah, there's quite a few. All right. Okay, so other ships I found, they had odd names with it. My trust fund, again, luxury yachts. Okay, let's see, government services, well, you know, and I'd say, okay. So much like the airline industry, you can view in almost real time where planes are, you know, commercial airlines. These ships have the same thing going on with maritimetraffic.com and vesselfinder.com. Okay, any ship anywhere in the world, they're color coded. Some are cruise ships, like the blue ones. This is the Carnival Victory, Freedom of the Seas. But again, these are freighters, oil rigs, cruise lines, luxury yachts. Okay, so after checking things out, I found some issues with, again, some of their encryption. When I did this scan, the last time I did a full scan was in April of 2016, and this is what I found, okay? Some of these SSO versions or encryption versions are susceptible to poodle and drown, fair significantly amount of them. Okay. Plenty of public services, in other words, internet-facing services on these ships. Okay, PC Anywhere. Didn't even know anybody used that anymore, but it's still out there. There was 4 ships that use that. Windows Remote Management and Telnet on port 2323. Yeah, they're real crafty there. All right. Yeah, Telnet might be an issue as well. Okay. So here's an overview of some of the notable issues. Okay, one, there was a couple of ships running a service that had Debian 4 on it, which lost support back in, it was sometime in 2010. Okay, with an exploitable version of OpenSSH, running a voice over IP system with remote access using default credentials. Several ships running an exploitable version of a Linux kernel, Microsoft Exchange Server 2003, which lost support in April 2009. Misconfigured Sonic Wall Firewall, again using default credentials. A few more here. Okay. With all these vulnerabilities, again, there were several. This is just a small list. These are just the ones that were kind of most shocking to me, so I thought I'd share those. But yeah, it could be there's many more vulnerabilities and enough vulnerabilities to create. That's my joke. All right, I am not a comedian. Okay, so up to this point, this pretty much concluded my presentation until I added this additional information that you're about to see. If you've seen my presentation before, you haven't seen the following. I found more maritime telecommunications related networks, and these are my findings. Okay, so here's one network. This one was kind of boring. There wasn't a ton of things going on here. It's SES Maritime, which is affiliated with the maritime industry, and they also provide satellite internet services. Okay. Lots of Cisco stuff on here. Lots of Cisco web interfaces, NTP, a couple of devices with default credentials. Okay, so again, this one was kind of boring. Okay, getting into this one, 67.21.16.0/20 is a CEDAR address. Here's some of the information I found. Lots of government services on this one. Okay, so this one, I'm assuming, must cover the majority of government services. Full of riverbed, steelhead, BCX management consoles, pneumatics equipment, various exploitable SSH versions, just like the first network I found, using a very old Cisco equipment. And again, using outdated versions of Debian with very exploitable services. Fortunately for them, they're using such an old version of OpenSSL, it wasn't susceptible to Heartbleed. Okay, so good for them. All right, and again, much more information. Fortinet, FortiGate, SonicWall, MikroTik, a ton of other stuff on there. And again, several devices with default credentials. Okay. One thing I found on this network that was kind of interesting, there's this web page that basically, without even logging in, shows you some of the information, some of the network information. Okay. Now, the Shore CB, that's a private address. The Shore host, that's just a DNS server, but it's giving you a public IP address. Okay, another box there. Went from VSAT to W35 to FBB. I know what VSAT is, but I didn't really know what the others were. But it appears that this one's some sort of communications device made by Ericsson. But again, shows the information. You don't even have to log in, and it kind of shows the information. And the last one, there wasn't really anything here. So, but it does show you longitude and latitude and longitude. All right. So, and then the last one I found, 216.7.144.0/20. Okay. This one was more of your, it was non-governmental, okay? So cruise ships, yachts, oil tankers, freighters, stuff like that. Again, full of riverbed, steelhead, VCX management consoles, pneumatics equipment, various exploitable SSH versions. I found Ventrilo surround sound voice communications. There was a web interface for that. Okay. Lots of web servers set up with defaults. So in other words, I got big screens that said IIS-7 on it, or Apache, it works. So, and then there was also billing systems, okay, web front ends to billing systems there as well. I'm in the process of communicating some of these vulnerabilities with the maritime industry, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but with the original network I found, I sent out emails to 15 different companies, and I've received responses now from 5 of them. Okay, so that's not the best. So, but okay. So I did find on this network, I did find an odd vessel name called Masashi. After a little bit of Googling, I found out that it was a World War II Japanese battleship that sunk in 1944. So I thought somebody was trolling me or something, right? Okay, well, I found out that the ship actually belonged to this guy. Okay. Co-founder and previous longtime CEO of Oracle. Okay. A very nice ship, by the way. There's a bunch of pictures on the internet, but I wasn't able to zoom into the navigation system, so I couldn't really find out a whole lot of good information. All right, so again, I was taking a screenshot of where Masashi was at the time that I added this slide to the presentation. Looks like he was headed on course to hit the Pearly Bell. They never collided, so we're good there. Are there any vulnerabilities associated with the ship? Well, maybe, but we're not going to get into that. However, I'm not going to blame him, as I'm sure he has a guy that handles all that for him. I'm sure he's probably not on the ship trying to secure his own ship. So multi-billionaire there. So, okay, so statistics for that last network that I just looked at. Again, several of different internet-facing services. The funny one that I thought, there's one ship that has something called an automatic tank gauge. I have no idea what that is, but it probably shouldn't be facing the internet. All right, so progress. Okay, again, I told you out of the 15 emails that I sent, 5 of them have now responded. They were very good about it, by the way. They weren't like jerks. They were, well, thank you. We appreciate that, and we'll do what we can to try and fix some of these vulnerabilities. So, there was good communication going on there. Again, I did my last full evaluation of this original block back in April. My previous presentations have been based solely on this block. So let's compare to if there's been any improvements, okay, comparing then to now. I did another scan on November 1st just to see where things were. So has anything gotten any better? Not really. Okay. There is an increase using TLS 1.1 and 1.2, but TLS version 1.1, the compatibility. So yeah. So there's been a lot more services. There's been a lot more services actually added to the network. So yeah, there's some work to do there. Okay. Internet-facing services before and after. HTTP has gone up significantly, which, there's HTTPS out there in case I didn't know. Telnet usage has actually gone down. SSH has gone up. HTTPS has gone up. So, I mean, they're sort of better. Instead of 4 ships having PC anywhere, now there's only 1. So my assumption is they're trying. Okay. So over the last 10 years, each cruise line has steadily increased their wireless security with better encryption, sort of. Their internet kiosks have gone from PCs with Windows XP using Internet Explorer back in 2005, which was the norm back then, sort of, with very minimal control mechanisms to running. Now they're running Windows Vista with Chrome and Incognito mode, along with Deep Freeze. So not perfect, but at least they're slowly advancing. Lastly, again, all the respective cruise lines, freight lines, and everybody else, I've contacted them about these issues. Okay. So a few thank yous. I want to thank Hackfest for letting me present this information to you. Adam Brand from Protivity, he helped me a bit with this research. He actually helped me speed things along by pointing me towards the right resources. Lonnie Decker and Scott James for the guidance in education and life. Chris Roberts, I've seen him talk at several conferences, and he kind of inspired me to go forward with this. Christina, my wife, she's in the office, or in the audience over here. Elena, and my mother for their inspiration and support, and I want to thank you for coming. Okay. Are there any questions? Yes. Okay, that's a very good question. He asked about maritime law. Is it legal for me to do things and stuff while I'm on these ships? That's a good question. I still haven't looked into that yet. I actually got asked that question before. My assumption is you probably shouldn't. Okay. I don't want to go to the brig, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay, that's a good point. Follow the ship's flag, wherever that ship may be from, whether it be from somewhere in the Caribbean or South America or wherever. So that might, I mean, I'm going to tell you that you probably shouldn't do anything bad, okay? But I can't tell you what to do. Any other questions? Okay, merci. Thank you.